and welcome to a special edition of a Thai football podcast with me, Dale Farrington, and this week's special guest, Kevin Narang. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Dale. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, mate. Thank you. And you?
I'm doing great as well.
Glad to hear it. And it's good to have you along. So, shall we get straight into it?
Let's get into it.
Okay. So, first up, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
My name is Kevin. You might have seen me on Twitter. My handle is Kickoff Corner. I'm basically half Thai, half Indian. I live in Thailand and, obviously a Thai football fan. I don't know how much I can describe myself. I might come off as a bit of a narcissist if I do too much, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that pretty much covers everything. Thanks, Kevin. You've mentioned Kickoff Corner, which is your Twitter handle and also your YouTube channel, I believe. So can you tell us a little bit about that and how that came about?
I recently, I would not say recently, but about 3.5 years ago, I got back into watching football again because there was kind of a big gap where I stopped following football. So I followed football once again and, I just fell in love with the game again. I was watching a lot of Premier League football back then, but I always wanted to, go and watch football in the stadium. And I did a little bit of research and found out, hey, Thailand got a football league as well. So I started following the Thai league, I would say about for 2.5 seasons now. And during my early days, I figured out that, hey, this league has so much potential and there's not a lot of people out there that's following. So one of my main reasons of making a YouTube channel was just to basically spread awareness that, hey, there's a football league that exists in Thailand and basically spread the word of Thai football. So you could say like my goal was basically to promote Thai football. Initially, it started off like that. I thought of doing my content in English only so that, I can have people who are not Thai get interested into this football league that we got over here. But recently, for the past 2 or 3 videos, I've been doing my content in Thai because my friend, she recommended me, hey, you know what? Why don't you try doing something in Thai? And it's actually working out pretty well. I'm not so sure where I'm going to take the content thing, but the YouTube thing is mainly to just promote Thai football.
So your YouTube channel seems to be doing very well. You've got a lot of subscribers. What kind of content do you include on there?
I mostly do like vlogs when I go watch the football games in the stadium. I mostly do vlogs. I'm quite aware that the camera time for me in itself in the vlog is quite less compared to, the football highlights things. Mainly I'm doing vlogs and I plan on improving that next season.
And I've seen a couple of watchalongs that you do as well. So can I ask you about those? You did one recently for a Thai international match, didn't you?
Yeah, so basically when I cannot make it to the games, I just plan on going live and, because I'm gonna watch the game regardless. And if I'm in front of my computer, I just think of, hey, you know what? There's no harm in just going live. I'm going to watch it anyways. And maybe that could strike a different kind of audience. So you never know.
Confession time here. I find these things fascinating. I mean, there's obviously a huge age difference between the two of us. You're a lot younger and a lot prettier than I am, Kevin. But I find these things just, it's beyond my comprehension. It's nothing personal. Obviously, there is a market out there. So what do you get out of that experience? And what do you think the viewer gets out of it?
If you've watched me live, there's barely any people over there that's interacting with me. So far, it's just an experiment because I've seen like football channels that cover like the Premier League or, the Spanish league. I see a lot of fans, they do these live commentary while the game is going on. So I thought maybe, if I integrate this type of content, it could maybe start some kind of an engagement with my subscribers. It's still really, really early. I think if I really want to get into it, I got to be more consistent with my live streams. But so far, I cannot really answer that question because I've not had enough experience with that yet.
Is there not an element of you kind of bearing your soul when you're doing these? Do you not feel self-conscious when you're on camera watching a match? I mean, I would hate a similar sort of thing. I've often said there are times when I've been at a football match, and if somebody had been recording me over that 90 minutes, I would hate to watch it back.
Yeah.
So how does that feel?
I've tried live streaming before when I was in university. I used to play a lot of video games. So there was this website called twitch.tv where you could stream video games. And back then, I used to have like at an average about 15 to 20 people watching me live, which, it's not a lot, but imagine 15 or 20 people watching you play video games and just talking to you through a screen. I think I got most of my practice from there. So that's why it's a little bit more natural for me to do it.
Like I say, it's clearly a generational thing. I can't think of anything worse than having someone watching me watching football. But good luck to you, mate. I mean, it's the passion comes across, and this is something that comes across. I mean, you've done a lot of match reports for our podcast, which we're always very grateful when we get them. And the vlogs that you do as well on your YouTube channel are fantastic, and you are very passionate. And that really comes across. So what's it like doing something like this in the stadium when the game's going on?
For next season, I'm gonna mostly buy my tickets where, there's gonna be those cheerleaders, you could call them. We call them Kong Chia in Thai. Because when I went to the Bangkok FC game, it was much easier for me to vlog when there were people cheering around. Like, no one really cares when you do it. But let's say if I'm in the main stand and if I'm doing it, I kind of feel awkward as well because I don't want other people to feel awkward around me. So a lot of my vlogs, you might have noticed that while the match is going on, I don't really point the camera to myself and talk to it. I just show the match highlights. One of the main reasons is, just being respectful, you could say, of the people around me. But if I want to do my shenanigans, I think I should go to the stand where, there are the drums and people are cheering. So next season, I plan on doing that because I feel like people, they would want to see my opinion or my live reaction to the games more than watching the game itself. Because if they really wanted to just watch the highlights, they could just go on the Thai League page and watch it over there.
That's a good point about intruding on people watching the game. Although I have found in Thailand, especially, that people don't seem to mind. There's always someone with a camera. There's always someone videoing. And it's just part of the experience for a lot of people. And I love the use of the word shenanigans in there as well. I do enjoy your shenanigans, Kevin, and long may they continue. But just rewinding a little bit, you said very near the start of our chat that you'd fallen out of love with football. Why was this? What was it about football that suddenly put you off?
Okay, so my story with football goes something like this. So I really became a football fan, or you could say a Man United fan around 2007, 2008. And
Okay,
I
that's where
was
we're going
like,
to stop
what?
the interview. Sorry, Kevin,
Yeah,
that's where we're going to stop the interview. You've just no, carry on. I'm only kidding.
yeah. So back then I was like, what? Like in 2008, I was 10 years old. So what would a 10-year-old know about football? I just knew it was something that existed. My friends loved it. We used to play football, and that was pretty much it. And, I used to follow Man United just like little by little. I didn't watch every game. I had school to attend. And, slowly it just faded away. But then, all of a sudden, like just a few years back, I think it was COVID. I had nothing to do. I was bored of playing video games. I was bored of sitting at home. I just decided to buy a Premier League package from True Visions and started watching football once again. And with that, I slowly started consuming, more content. I started following pages on Twitter. I started following YouTube channels, and I started subscribing to the people whose opinion matches my opinion as well. And, it gradually grew on from there. And to this day, I'm consuming mainly football content. I wake up in the morning, I shower, and when I'm getting dressed up, I open my TV and I open some kind of football news on my YouTube channel. So the transition was really, really smooth. Like I could not even, point out a specific point where, I just got like a eureka moment, you could say, where I was like, hey, let me just go watch football again. It was just like a smooth transition, just like I said.
And it certainly sounds like you're fully back in love with the game again now. How did your interest in Muang Thong United come about?
This is an interesting story. So, I just a little bit early on, I mentioned about, just getting into Thai football because I wanted to watch games in the stadium. So, when I was deciding on that, I, just pointed out the closest stadium to my home. And it happened to be Port FC was the closest stadium to where I live. So in terms of going for games, that would have been the easiest one. And the second closest was Muang Thong. So I decided to, hey, you know what? Let me just, I did not, mind you, I did not do any kind of research about, what the teams were like, how many cups they've won, nothing. I just wanted to go watch and support a team that's close to where I live. So I picked Port FC first. But then, it changed really quick. Like I would say it changed in like a few hours when I saw that ugly blue and orange jersey. I could not take it. I was like, there's no way I'm buying that jersey and going to the football stadium to watch games. Then I was like, what's the second closest place to my home? And it's Muang Thong. And they had a beautiful shirt. I'm gonna be really honest, that was the main reason I started supporting Muang Thong United.
It's very similar to the Manchester United shirt, isn't it? So that probably played a part in your thinking as well.
I decided my team based on how the shirts look.
Maybe if you'd have been a Shrewsbury Town fan, you would have stuck with Port.
Could be.
I think your revelation just now will shock a few people. That's quite a thing to confess. Were you aware of the rivalry between Port and Muang Thong, which is probably the fiercest in Thai football, it's fair to say?
Yeah, I know that now, but back then I did not. When I chose a team, I started to do research after choosing a team. And then I was like, hey, I chose the better team. We have had better history, we have had more success. It might not be the case right now, but in terms of, the club, we have a better stadium. It's beautiful. And we have a lot of parking space. We don't have to go through a lot of traffic to get to the stadium. But when you talk about the rivalry, yeah, I did my research, just like I said, after picking the team, right? So I was just reading about Muang Thong, and then obviously everyone knew about Buriram United. Even if you don't watch football, you know about that team. I would say they're not just a football team, but they're like a consumer brand. So everyone knew about Buriram United. I researched about Muang Thong, and then on the Wikipedia, it would say that, Muang Thong's biggest rivals are Buriram United. And then just like, by doing more research, by watching more YouTube videos, there was one English guy who used to make videos. He was a Port fan. And I watched one of his videos where he goes undercover to Thunderdome Stadium. And then he was revealing something about, there's some tension between these two teams. And then I did more research, and then I saw how serious this thing actually was. And then my hatred for Port started from there.
It went beyond the colour of the shirts to much deeper
It
then,
went
did it?
beyond the color of the shirt. But okay, you know what? It's just, I would say the hatred is just, I don't really hate them like that. I would say hatred in terms of competition, if that makes any sense. I mean, if they do good in Thai football, I think in general it's good for the Thai football scene. If any team does good for that matter. But as long as a local rivalry is, there's a hatred. But at the same time, I don't hate them.
No,
I don't know if
I
that
totally
makes sense.
understand. I think it's healthy to have that competitiveness and that bit of edge to these games. Quite a lot of people who I've taken say that's the one thing that's missing. So it is nice. And as long as it
Hmm.
stays within the boundaries of what's accepted, which seems to be the case more often than not. I mean, it's very rare that it spills over and we get the scenes that we unfortunately got a few years ago that led to the ban and everything. So I think
Hmm.
it's quite good, and it's nice to have proper rivalry, isn't it, in football? That's what makes it such a wonderful sport, I think.
Oh, 100%. I think in one of the previous episodes, I think it was the review. I did one of the reviews for the Port versus Muang Thong game when I went to Klong Toei to watch the game. I actually mentioned about this. Like, I love a little bit of that because that's what's the beauty of football. If you can hire enough security, let the fans enjoy. Let them flip each other off. Let them abuse each other. It's fine. End of the day, we can still shake hands. If things are really gonna get escalated, just make sure you hire enough security. If it's a big game like this, just do that and let the fans enjoy. Let them flip each other off. I feel like that's the beauty of football, and quite honestly, it's still missing in Thailand. You don't see a lot of it. I mean, for the Bangkok FC versus Sisaket game that I went to, the T3 championship game that I went to, like after Bangkok FC won, they were singing Sisaket songs. I was like, what? You don't really see this anywhere else in the world.
I'm kind of split on this, if I'm being honest. I mean, I grew up in England in the 60s and 70s and into the 80s when violence at football was just prevalent. I mean, every single game I went to, you could guarantee there was a fight. And,
Hmm.
depending on who the opposition were, which teams were involved, the severity of it differed, but you'd always get trouble. And obviously, as I've got older, you kind of think, I don't need that hassle anymore, which was certainly a big appeal to me watching Thai football was for the 90 minutes, fans are passionate about the side. And then afterwards, it's all forgotten and they'll sing opposition songs and where the team goes across and gets applauded by the opponent's supporters. It is quite nice. I do quite like that. But, there's a part of me thinking, is that really necessary? I am
Yeah.
torn on that, but I think overall I'd definitely come down in favour of the Thai way. For 90 minutes, you can hate on the opposition, you can shout and scream and do whatever you like, but as soon as that final whistle goes, that's when it should all be forgotten. And
Mm.
that is one of the attractive things for me about Thai football as an old bloke who's seen the worst of football fan culture.
Yeah, I mean, I really loved it when Muang Thong beat Buriram in the semifinal of the cup game. I was there in the stadium, in BG Stadium, and even though the game ended, the Muang Thong Ultras were still singing like Buriram Hua Kwe. I'm pretty sure you know what that means.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah. So that was, I think, the highlight for my season was that game. Beating Buriram in BG in a cup semifinal, that was the highlight for me. And the fans showed up, even the fans that were sitting on the main stand, where usually you don't see a lot of them making a lot of noise. Throughout the entire game, there were cheers going on, they were singing. The atmosphere was crazy. It was nothing like those plastic Buriram fans.
Again, I've been to matches in Thailand where the atmosphere has easily equaled anything I've experienced in England. So we are getting there slowly. You've mentioned Buriram earlier about they're more of a consumer brand. So how would you see your rivalry with Buriram United? They're not liked by a lot of people, are they? And there's probably good reason for
Oh
that.
yeah.
But from a Muang Thong United point of view, how would you see that rivalry compared to the rivalry you have with Port?
We got to give credit where credit is due. They've done a really good job in promoting their football club, promoting their brand. A lot of people know them. People would wear their shirts without even attending even a single game, without even watching a single game. They will wear their shirts. So they've done something right in that aspect. Financially, as a business, I think they're moving really good. And you could include the academy as well. In the recent years, they've had Supanat Muanta, who's gone to OH Leuven, his brother who's gone to Japan right now, and we're hearing rumors about Super Chai Chai that going to Japan as well. So clearly something is working. So we got to give credit where credit is due, because end of the day, on the Asian stage they are gonna represent Thailand, but in the Thai league, oh my God, I despise them. I feel like there's nothing authentic about them. You look at the fans that are cheering, the ones who are singing, on the drums and clapping. They are basically all those aunties who probably make somtam back in Buriram. They've probably been hired by Navin, to come and cheer for Buriram. It honestly feels like that. I'm not gonna lie. When they're cheering, there's no kind of aggression that's felt. I think it's just like a annoying background music that's going on, when they're in the stadium. That's pretty much it. And by following Buriram as well for the past 2 years, I've also seen a lot of people complaining about how the referees would, give decision bias to Buriram. I've seen that live last season when Muang Thong were playing Buriram in Thunderdome, where the game drew 4-4, and the referee got suspended after that game. Some fans even threw beer at the referee. It was that bad. So you can see that aspect as well. But the rivalry with Buriram, I think it's still bigger than the rivalry with Port. But when you talk about the passion side of things, I feel like Port FC brings more of that than Buriram.
We'll come back to the refereeing aspect in a while, but I want to just rewind a little bit and talk about the fans. Now, when PEA first moved to Buriram, there were
Mm.
lots and lots of accusations that the fans were being paid to attend games. There was free transport, there was free food. They were also given financial encouragement to attend. This was fairly much perceived wisdom. Now, it's interesting what you say, because as a fan of Thai football and as a Thai yourself, the cheer squad they have at Buriram United, you said it's made up of grannies and aunties, etc. I mean, do you not think that's a good thing? I mean, is that not a great idea?
No,
Getting
no.
the community involved. Is it the fact that it's manufactured rather than something that is evolved and something that's
Look,
happened spontaneously? Is that your biggest worry about it?
look, I don't know for a fact that, they're hired cheerleaders, but it quite honestly feels that way. Believe me or not, last year, League Cup final, Buriram versus BG, I got a ticket to the Buriram end and I sat with these grannies. No passion whatsoever. You cannot feel a single ounce of passion over there. If you want to promote Thai football to like the new generation, as long as they're not bandwagoners, there's no way they're going to support Buriram United. Because as a fan, you would want to experience the atmosphere in the stadium. You would want to see how the team is being supported by the fans and the passion of the fans. Buriram has none of it. You cannot feel it. Or maybe I'm a Muang Thong fan. Maybe that's why I'm saying this. Even as a rival, like, in the semifinals this season, you could not feel that one bit. Whereas on the Muang Thong side, the Ultras, they were looking like goons. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but hey, there's some passion there.
I've seen it close hand. It really shocked me. I think it might even have been back in the PEA days when Buriram came down to Chonburi. And where we normally sit pre-match is behind the away end. And, usually you get a gathering of away supporters. It's always quite friendly and relaxed. People swap beers and share food and all the rest of it. And it was noticeably different when Buriram came down. The people themselves were absolutely fine. They were really lovely people, but you could tell they were very reserved. And then about half an hour before kickoff, and I've got photographic evidence of this if anybody doubts it, about 15 or 20 men, all probably aged in the 30s and 40s, dressed entirely in black, came along and moved all the Buriram United fans away from where they were sitting quite happily and got them all lining up ready to go in the ground, and it was all orchestrated. And
Oh my God.
I actually felt for them because they were nice people. We were talking to them, but like I say, they had been quite reserved and not as gregarious as fans of other clubs. So that was interesting to see, and it kind of backs up what you're saying. Although I must admit, if my granny and auntie went to football, I don't think they'd tolerate
Yeah,
that.
sure.
So,
Yeah, but hey, look at Sisaket, they're not even in the first division. They just got promoted, yes, but I went to watch the game in Bangmot, the Bangkok FC game. Sisaket is not too far from Buriram. I feel like the demographic should resemble, but there's so much contrast, from the Sisaket fans and the Buriram United fans. And I could say the same for Nakhon Ratchasima fans as well. Look at the passion that gets translated. I've never been to a Nakhon Ratchasima game, but I've watched them on TV. It gets translated, and they're from the same region. So, hey, Dale, when you said that, they were orchestrating these so-called Buriram fans to do certain things, it's believable. I would not doubt it.
It's interesting that you've just mentioned those two clubs, Nakhon Ratchasima and Sisaket, because in my experience, they are the best away fans we've ever had at Chonburi. Sisaket in particular, it was always party time. They'd come down, they'd cook the food outside the ground, they'd drink, they'd share drinks. They were so friendly, so open. In fact, on a few occasions, the away end was full almost, but there was probably as many people sitting outside just enjoying the experience. So I totally get what you're saying. That contrast is stark, isn't it?
I'm sure they're lovely people, but when you talk about the party thing, they came all the way from Sisaket to Bangmot. It's a Thai League 3 event. It's not even a premier event. And they made sure that they brought the atmosphere in. I think they were more away fans than the home fans, or it could be 50-50 split on that day. So yeah, big up to them, because hey, as long as you're not manufactured and if you live in Isan, you got teams to support over there. I think it's the hub of football. You don't have to go to Buriram United.
I think we should also point out as well that a lot of people from that region do live in Bangkok and Chonburi as well, so they weren't all travelling down, but they certainly add to the atmosphere, and it is fantastic. Yeah, it'd be great to see Nakhon Ratchasima back in the top flight, and hopefully Sisaket can join them the following season. It'd be lovely to see them back in T1, along with Chonburi, of course. Now, I did promise we'd come back to the refereeing thing. So, is this something? Do you think this is out of control? Is this an easy peg on which to hang Buriram's success? Oh, they've got the refs in their pocket. They always give them favourable decisions. When you go up there, you're not going to get the rub of the green. Is that just a convenient way to excuse the fact that Buriram United are head and shoulders above everybody else in the league?
I would not say 100%, but it does help them. Buriram, financially, they're also set so they can buy players to compete with the league.
I'm so glad you said they can buy players then. I was dreading where you were going with that. Tread very carefully, Kevin.
Not just the players, but hey, they buy the fans as well, apparently, right? But
and
yeah,
that's all.
Look,
that's all.
the referees over here, right? First of all, I think, let's forget about their biases towards Buriram. I'm sure not all of them are like that. But I do think there's a sense of fear sometimes that comes from these big games, it almost feels like sometimes they are supposed to give those wrong decisions. But I think the refereeing scene in Thailand, it pretty much is abysmal. I think they need better referees. They need to train them. I don't know what to do, but they need better referees, because I feel like the referees to some extent dictate how the game is gonna turn out to be. It could be a really boring game. It could be a really nice end-to-end game. And I feel like the referee plays a role in that as well. But when you got referees like the ones you got here in Thailand, sometimes it just kills the joy out of the game.
I would agree with a lot of that, Kevin. Definitely. I think training for referees is something that should be right at the top of the list for the new FA to sort
Yeah.
out. It's something we've been crying out for a long time. They are doing it. I've seen evidence that they're running clinics and camps for referees, and they're involved with the AFC as well, which is definitely a step forward. But it is something that they need to work towards, I think. I mean, who would want to be a referee in the Thai league?
Good question. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, just look at these players, these Thai players when they go and play for their national team. Like recently, I think when they were playing against Singapore, just those little push and shoves that they got, they were just appealing for a foul or for a penalty. But hey, you don't get them. You don't get them anywhere else. But hey, in the Thai league, if someone just taps your toe and you fall in the penalty box, the VAR is gonna, tell the referee on the pitch, hey, that's a penalty. I think there's much more than that. But to answer your question, who would like to be a referee? I would certainly not want to be a referee in the Thai league. It's too much to handle. I think there's a lot of pressure that comes from above as well, or at least it feels like. I don't know. If you would ask me how can they improve, it's still really hard to give you an answer on that. But I feel like it's got to start somewhere though, right? Like I feel like training them would be a good start, or maybe splashing in a little bit of money and hiring foreign referees from the foreign leagues. But I don't think it works like that anywhere else, though.
I know that they have done that in the past. We've had Japanese officials officiating in Thai league games. But with the referees as well, I think there is this pressure. You're absolutely right. I think that's one of the things. And something that really annoys me is when you see a referee. Now, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. So say they make a mistake and it proves to be quite costly. The next thing you see is that referee's banned from 6 months. Then he comes back and he's demoted to refereeing in the semi-pro league. Do you think that works? Is that the best way to deal with it? Or do you think they need support from the FA and from the Referees Association rather than being hung out to dry in the way that they are these days? It does annoy me, I've got to say that.
In my opinion, that's not the right way to deal with it. I feel like if a referee is going to give a certain kind of decision, right, let that same referee be consistent with it. Let him do it throughout the season, throughout the league, wherever he goes. I would not complain one bit. At least I would know, hey, that's the guy who gives these kinds of decisions. But hanging them out to dry, I think it's too much. Look, they're humans, end of the day. They can make mistakes. But as long as they're making mistakes and they're consistent with it, I would not mind it, because at least we know what to expect, They would not just surprise us out of nowhere. I also agree that something like the PGMOL, the referee committee, needs to have some power in Thailand as well, because I feel like they're weak over here. Like even the players, like these foreign players, they just shout abusive words at them and they just quietly ignore them, or they just take it in. If you do the same thing in England or in any of those European leagues, you're getting booked straight away, maybe even a red card. But over here, they're too afraid to do that. And I think that could probably boil down to not having enough support from, let's say, the referee committee or the FA of Thailand, because it's really easy for the FAT to, shy away from controversy and just, suspend the referee who's a no-name referee who no one, would even think about in the next few hours. I feel like the FA should support the referees a bit more, but when you talk just about the quality of referees, that still needs to be improved. But if the quality is not there yet, I wish, the referees can be consistent with their decisions.
I agree entirely. And I think you're right to point out that there's a lot of fear involved. I mean, I've often said I'd love to referee a Thai football match. I really would, because there'd be no messing about. It'd probably have to be abandoned, because I would have sent off about 5 players from each side within the first 15 minutes. It wouldn't be much of a spectacle, but it'd give me a lot of satisfaction anyway. Yeah, some good points there. And I think as well, if you said, that they're human and they make mistakes. I mean, if we were to apply the same kind of approach to players, all right, if you make this mistake in a match, you're going to be suspended for 6 months and you're not going to come back and play in T1. You're going to start in the semi-pro league. It's the same principle, isn't it?
They're gonna probably fear something. Yeah, they would probably be afraid to make certain right decisions as well, because in the back of their mind, they probably would think, hey, what if this turns out to be sour for the other team? And they're too afraid to make the right decisions as well because they're gonna get punished for it. So if the referees are gonna be too self-conscious, right, I feel like it could lead them to make even worse mistakes. Just let them do their jobs. Let them be shit and be consistent with it.
Yeah, yeah, spot on. Just like the rest of us, really.
Yeah. And I've
No,
to add on to this referee thing, right? I feel like you should hire ex-players to come and referee the games because they would have a better idea of how, the football is being played on the pitch. I'm not sure all the referees are ex-players or not, but if not, I feel like they should look into this as well. I think it can help.
oh, undoubtedly. But here's a question. I'm going to ask you something now. Why do you think, and I'm not just talking about Thailand now, I'm talking in general. Why do you think, I'm struggling now to think of any, actually. There's probably been one or two, but by and large, why do you think ex-players don't become referees?
I don't think I can answer that. If that player is a high profile player, right? Like let's say if it's like something like Chanatip, it makes sense for him not to go and, basically downgrade. But I'm talking about the players who play in T2 or T3, not looking down on them. It's not about looking down on them, but not everyone becomes a superstar. A lot of them are left like, being no names, but there's still a career after your playing career. Some of the lesser popular players, they could go into punditry or they could go and make some content. Like you could see Lee Saw, right? He's making YouTube content now. But the players who are not that high profile, I feel like if they still love the game and if they got a passion for football and they still want to run around the pitch and be involved with it, hey, why not give being a referee a shout?
It would be great to see, but I think the reason they don't do it is because they know how difficult the job is. It's all right being on one side of the fence where you can shout abuse and try and manipulate decisions and all the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's another thing entirely to be in the middle with the whistle, having to make those decisions when you've got 22 players, goodness knows how many people on the bench and 5,000, 10,000 people hanging on your every decision. So that's why they don't do it. And funnily enough, I've just thought of an ex-player who became a referee. My uncle, he did it. Not at any great level, but he did referee once. He refereed Manchester United against Everton A-team game that featured, get this, two former Thailand national team bosses. Can you guess who they were? So it's Manchester United A-team against Everton A-team. Big clue there.
When was this?
This would have been back in the 80s. Both players were coming back from injury, but both have gone on to manage the Thailand national team.
No idea.
Brian Robson and Peter Reid. And my uncle, he said it was one of the best matches he's ever been involved in. He said they were brilliant. He said they were mainly young kids, obviously in the A-team or players coming back from injury. And he said they were brilliant. He said the banter, the whole game was fantastic. And he said it was the most enjoyable 90 minutes he's ever had as a referee.
That experience must have been really great.
Interesting enough, when Peter Reid was the Thailand national head coach, I mentioned this to him and he remembered. So there you go. That's quite a feather in my uncle's cap.
Wow, that's good.
Anyway, as we've just mentioned the national team, what are your thoughts? I mean, we've had massive disappointment recently, and the more I think about the events of last week, the more frustrated and upset and angry I become because it was such a big opportunity, wasn't it, for that team to progress?
Dale, I actually forgot about that.
Okay, we can talk about something else if you'd rather.
No. Let's talk about this now. Let's talk about this. What do you want to know, Dale? Come on.
Just your thoughts on the national team and where do we go from here, really?
Well, long term, I don't see us going anywhere. I feel like we are probably going to be in the same level or maybe dip below this level. But to improve the national team, I think you need to bring a lot of improvement in the youth and the infrastructure for the youth within the country. But for now, the national team, right? Like, especially after Mano Polking has left, we've seen some decent results, but not decent football. But at the same time, you cannot expect decent football from these bunch of players, especially in the Asian level. So right now, I would reserve my thoughts for, the current state of the Thai national team. and I'll wait for the AFF competition because that's where, it's more or less a level playing field. And there I can really judge Ishii on how his football is gonna be played and how the results actually whether they improve or they go down the other way.
Do you think Ishii's the right man for the job? I mean, obviously there was a lot of controversy about the way he got it, but from a purely coaching point of view, do you think he's better suited to the Thailand national team than his predecessor?
I don't agree with the way he was brought into the job and the way they fired Mano Polking, to be honest. But is he the right person for this job? Look, Thailand is not France. We are way off that. So I feel like any coach that comes into, coaching this team, I think they can do a really good job as long as they're given the freedom to do their job and they're not, being controlled or just being puppets for these so-called power hungry and egoistic people. You know who I mean. I feel like any coach at this point, if you're qualified enough to be a coach, right, and you got a pro license, I think they have enough knowledge on how to set up a team, on what kind of style you want to play football, and the level of players you got over here. I feel like any coach could do a decent job, but provided he's been given the freedom. Yeah.
Do you think we should have qualified? Do you think it's a massive missed opportunity?
Right.
If you can remember that far back, Kevin, last week.
I went to watch the game in Rajamangla, the Thailand-China game when Mano was still in charge, which was Mano's last game. Quite honestly, Thailand should have done their job right then and there. But hey, hiccups happen. We had a few more chances. The China game, the second leg when we went to Shanghai, I feel like we should have won that as well. We were not clinical in the final third. And then the Singapore game, you cannot give Ishii or the players any stick for that. They won the game 3-1. It's not a bad result. We were basically relying on South Korea to beat China. When you start relying on other teams to do the job for you, right? You are already in, a shaky state. So the two China games, I would focus on the two China games because Singapore games, we were supposed to win those games. If we drew or lost those games, I feel like the coach should have been sacked. But those two China games, they were really winnable. China pretty much sat back and it's not a good feeling, it feels like a heartbreak, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, we should have won both those games, to be honest. Yeah, when I think about it, it just feels like heartbreak.
One of the main criticisms you hear about the Football Association of Thailand is that they put the national team ahead of anything else. Everything stops when it comes to the national team. We have these mid-season breaks that aren't necessarily FIFA days. We have breaks for regional competitions. We have breaks for training camps at the whim of the national team coach. What do you think of all that? I mean, if you had a choice, and it is a choice, it's a straight choice, there's no in between, Kevin, and it's entirely on you. Would you prefer to have a strong Thailand national team or a strong domestic league and pyramid system?
I would prefer a strong domestic league and a pyramid system because if we got a good domestic league, it automatically translates to the national team, doesn't it?
I think in a lot of cases it does. I mean, there's no guarantee that it'd be a success, but I think you're right in principle, yeah.
Yeah, I would rather have a good domestic league because eventually that would improve. Like, it might sound a bit off for me saying this, but hey, obviously I would want Thailand to do good on the world stage or even the Asian stage. But just like I mentioned when we started talking about the national team, I feel like this team is not going anywhere in the near future or in the next 5 to 10 years. We might be in the same place because the youth development, I don't think we have a proper youth league in this country. How do you expect them to develop and compete with the likes of, I'm not even saying someone like somewhere in Europe. I'm talking like Iran, Iraq, people here in Indonesia. I feel like the next generation for Indonesia is going to be amazing. You look at the things they're doing in their under 17 and their junior programs. We would be far off from where they are right now.
This is something that has been talked about for a long time. I've been in Thailand nearly 30 years, and when I first started getting interested in Thai football, these were all things that were discussed then. Start with the youth, get a strong youth set up and take that group of players through, and eventually they'll play for the national team and there'll be success. There's been flickers of it, don't get me wrong. I think this current generation are probably up there amongst one of the best Thailand national teams I've seen. But it's just that next step, isn't it? You can boss Southeast Asia. you can do well in regional competitions, but it's that next step. That's the frustrating thing, that we never seem to be able to go that one little bit further. And it'd just be nice to see it, I think, for a lot of people. I think it'd be great for football in the country as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Just look at where the money goes, Look at BG, how much money they're splashing. Just do something about the youth team. We have money in Thailand. There's a lot of money lying around. We've got billionaires here in Thailand. If they really put, some interest in here, or even the government, for that matter, they could put some interest in this. We could progress from there. But we got to start somewhere, We cannot just invest in the Thai First Division League and just keep on splashing money there, because first of all, that's not sustainable. If a club that does not have a good youth system, it's pretty much, not sustainable for them, because they're always in the market trying to loan and buy players. But then it conflicts with this as well. The clubs would probably ask, hey, how can we make enough money? The FA does not pay us enough. We don't get enough money from the broadcasting rights. I would tell them, look at your players. Don't give them a one-off one-season contract. Take some risks. Put them on 3-4 year deals. If they really turn out well, some club is going to go and buy them from you. And when they buy it from you, you get money. And then you go invest that money in your infrastructure, in more players, in your academy, whatever. But I feel like most players in Thailand are on 1-year contracts or 1-year loans. I mean, look at this whole thing with Charoensak and BG right now. I don't know if you're following that or not. But look at how Charoensak was bought by BG from Samut Prakan for 30 million baht. And he went out on a free transfer to Muang Thong Utd. And now BG wants to buy Charoensak for, I believe, 25 or 30 million baht once again. What's all of this about, If BG would have put Charoensak on a 3-4 year contract or a 5-year contract, and if they actually developed him, let him play good football in Thailand, I feel like they could have easily sold him to a Japanese club by now.
It just highlights, doesn't it, the short-term thinking of a lot of Thai football clubs. And, it was something that I always found really strange when I first started following the leagues, was the turnover as well that most clubs have during the close season. They'll come to the end of the season and then all of a sudden, there's 15 players going out and another 15 coming in, and there's very little consistency. And as you just said, they don't seem to have that eye, do they, on the future? Like, let's think 3-5 years ahead now. Let's build something, and 5 years down the line, we'll reap the rewards. Which leads me nicely on to the last thing I want to talk about. And I've really enjoyed this conversation, Kevin. It's been brilliant. But I can't finish without bringing up the fact that your club, Muang Thong United, this very day, we're recording this on Sunday, this very day, have parted company with their head coach, Milos Joskic. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with this decision. I've been saying for so long, it's not that, I don't like the guy. He's brought in really good results. But for most of his tenure for this season, his football has been dead. We used to play at home against like Sukhothai, and we were on the back foot. I'm pretty sure Rob would argue with me that at least he's bringing in results. Like, why do I care so much about the style of play? But when you're actually there to watch football, I feel like you need that entertainment aspect as well. And Muang Thong is not a small club. You expect them to go on the front foot. And if Muang Thong wants to compete in the cups or, for the league as well, you can't be just sitting back and playing football like the way Milos has played. Although I would say one thing about Milos and Coach Uthai. During the end period, they actually transformed their style of play. It was no longer that pragmatic style of football. It actually started getting more entertaining. The 6-0 defeat to your team, actually, Chonburi. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing
I was
that up.
there at the stadium. What a game that was. The game against Buriram. What a game that was as well. So I feel like he was kind of transforming the style of play, which would have been nice to see next season. But hey, it's okay. We sacked Mario this season, okay? We are still better than many clubs out there who have sacked like 3 or 4 coaches.
It's not by going, is it, by Thai standards? So who would you like to see come in?
Buriram.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would I see come in? Oh, that's a difficult question. The Akbar Navas, but I think he just signed a contract, so I think he's out of the picture right now. Who's available? I don't even know who could be the right fit for this job. Coach Zico? Is he okay? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. I'm sure there'll be a few more twists and turns in the next couple of days. But that has been brilliant. Thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate you coming on, and it's been lovely to chat and fascinating to get your insight and your opinions. And obviously, the revelation that you started off as a Port fan, but swapped your allegiances to
No. Dale, let me
rivals.
clear that. I was never a Port fan. I was flirting with the idea only.
Okay, you've set the record straight there. I just hope another club with a nicer shirt and a bigger car park don't come along and lure you away from Muang Thong United.
No, it would be too far for me. And hey, I'm a loyal person, okay? I'm a United fan. We're not going through the best time right now, but I'm loyal. Once I stick with someone, I'm going all in.
Just the way it should be. Thank you so much, Kevin, and look forward to speaking to you again in the very near future.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast, Dale. I really loved it.